Welcome to No Free Lunch, Africa's freshest business and tech podcast with me, your host, Greg Stewart. In today's episode, we're talking success in the development of biotech in Africa. With startup Immobazyme just completed a successful second round of funding to the tune of 25 million rand. After an initial raise of 25 million rand that saw the group establish its enzyme production facility in Stellenbosch in South Africa. So with me on the show today are one of the group's founders, a COO and PhD graduate, Ethan Hunter. Ethan, welcome to No Free Lunch and really looking forward to our chat.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. Pleasure to catch up with you again and looking forward to it. Thanks for having me.
So the last time I spoke to you, I think I spoke to Nick as well at that stage. You just sort of established series of enzymes that you were using for all sorts of applications and looking to expand that. Congratulations on your new funding round. That brings your whole total funding to about 50 million. Talk to us about some of the key milestones and from your previous round, and what were those milestones that convinced fresh investment to come into the company? Talk to us a bit about that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I recall when we chatted last, we were likely incredibly R&D, research and development focused. Trying to create some weird and wonderful inventions, attacking as many markets as possible, and really still trying to find traction. And at that point, I think one of our flagship products were a range of growth factors that were set for the cellular agriculture or the lab-grown meat industry. Since then, we've had to realize a few pivots, which have also come with many successes. And so having a look at the state of that cellular agriculture industry, we quickly realized that it was a bit too risky, that those companies that were established had their raw material suppliers approved by the FDA, and to penetrate that industry was going to be a far bigger challenge than we initially anticipated. And so we sort of had a sit down as a strategic founding group and thought, how do we pivot away from this, but still using our core technology of precision fermentation, which briefly is the genetic engineering of microbes to then produce high-value products. And we focus on low volume, high value. The growth hormones were perfect for that case study. And our pivot actually used the similar hormones, except we're now calling them cosmetic peptides. And so we introduced similar ingredients, the similar processing aids and peptides that we were creating for this cell ag industry. And we started marketing it towards the cosmetics industry. There's less regulation. It's easier to adopt. The switching costs aren't as great, and people understand it a lot more. Beyond that, we also thought, okay, now that we've got this platform ready, up and running, we're consistently making high-value proteins, high-value products. We sort of put our feelers out. We threw the net quite wide on the core focus of this technology, but to see who else could be interested in this. And throughout the year, we managed to get some great traction in the food and beverage space. One of the recycled paper products that we worked on a couple of years ago was successfully commercialized. And a cosmetics player was also super interested in the work we're doing, which actually sprung off a year-long project with L'Oreal International. So these are some of the bigger things that occurred. And we also went even further and began the pipeline of preclinical drug development using one of our growth hormones, which has been set for the treatment of diabetic foot ulcer wounds. So a diabetic foot ulcer wound is a non-healing, really somewhat life-threatening wound, or at least a lower limb amputation threat that affects a large percentage of diabetics globally. There is an approved drug in the South African market. It's Cuban-made. It's called Hebeprot-P, but it is just not accessible in terms of the costs. So you're looking at a treatment course of about 350,000 rands. And this is something that the government's not willing to subsidize, something that medical aid's not really willing to look into, and it's international. So we thought we'd come around. We saw some low-hanging fruit in that their patent is expired in South Africa. It's a biosimilar to something that we create already. And the roadmap to regulatory approval is far easier and more affordable. So with the cosmetics ingredients, the new food and beverage partners, and this sort of goalpost of a biosimilar drug manufactured in South Africa, we picked up quite a level of fresh interest from the VC realm in South Africa. We've stuck to local investors throughout our years and again in this round, but we're welcoming the institutional investor of Fireball Capital. So previously backed by USAID, they have some pension fund backing, and regularly they look at ticket sizes of about 100 million rand. But I'd like to think they took a keen interest in us for our strategic thinking and, in their own words, our commercial view. So there are many startups creating some incredible technology in this country. And Fireball likes to differ us in that we're actually looking to grow, to build this company, to hire skilled talent, to attack as many markets and in the near future go international. And so we've shifted our focus away from that. Yeah.
Sorry, Ethan. So right now, I mean, that's a lot that's happened in just about a year. You're now going to be using some of the new funding to create this new 1,800 square meter production facility. You can talk to us a bit about that. But how are you going to balance the R&D development as well as expanding production? There must be a lot on the go there. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Nick has actually gone and he's created, with the help of the many large language models out there for us these days and a bit of some Excel spreadsheets, we've actually created an in-house tool to assist us in making that exact decision. So the focus is sort of looking at 80% core commercial business, 20% R&D. But before that point, there's this tool that we're going to plug in and we look at all the variables that come along with new opportunities, new product developments, existing commercial activities, and we get a score. And that tells us if we scrap it, if we attack it full speed ahead, or if it's something that's up to discussion. So we're doing our best to.
Ethan, sorry, I'm going to interrupt you here. Are you telling me you're gonna depend your entire future on the decision of an AI?
I've left the up for discussion point as quite a large buffer zone. So no, as much as AI is assisting us on a daily basis, my trust levels are still limited. So yeah, Greg, we'll be leaning on it, but absolutely not relying on it.
It is a fascinating environment, though. Just talking about AI as something that's kind of coming in and disrupting, changing, and it does make sense, particularly if there's massive amounts of data or different viewpoints that you want to be presented. It is quite a good tool to use. But ultimately, knowing your products as well as you guys do, obviously your sense of what is working and what is possible, and even your ability to have pivoted over this period of time is also obviously a strategic advantage that you have as a team with yourself and the team around you, having successfully shown that you can adapt rapidly within a startup environment, which is a key thing to success, isn't it?
No, 100%. It also just sort of goes towards the benefit of technical founders. So yes. I mean, we've been learning along the way nonstop, and we've made a number of mistakes. We'll be the first to admit that also. But at least when push comes to shove, we have a bit more of an advantage in the game that we fully understand the products from its inception, from its functionality to the commercial goal of it. And then we understand the strategy of the company, and we're getting a bit of a better headspace on governance and all of the other necessities in building a successful business. But having three partners with a technical background, I think might have been one of our biggest advantages.
So just in terms of the structure of the funding, did that come along with an equity share? How are you going to balance that? And then looking ahead in terms of this new facility that you're building, I believe that's going to come online next year. How much volume, how much growth is that going to actually facilitate in the company?
Yeah, absolutely. To briefly touch on the first bit, sort of the cap table, to this day, we've been doing preference share, sort of safe note funding raises. That's worked really well for both us and the investment partner. And we're continuing to do that in this round. One notable difference is that there was a successful buyout of an early investor. So, they say only friends, family, and fools invest early. And one of those got lucky, I suppose. Well, it's not
Yeah.
luck in the end, it's preparation and opportunity.
Yeah.
But a successful buyout allowed for both Fireball and the University Technology Fund to get a little bit more skin in the game, along with a preference share conversion. It does still sit at a 51% co-founding holder, so we're still majority, and the shareholders are really phenomenal and forward-thinking in terms of creating some phantom share pools for strategic hiring, for founder ESOP programs. They really want to keep us incentivized. So we got incredibly lucky with the investors we do have. And then the facility itself, we're here as we speak. We've built the R&D aspects of it entirely, finishing the gowning room now for our food safe audit, which is happening later this week. And things are up and running. We're for the moment using our R&D facility as both R&D and production.
Right.
Still limited to about 30 liters of fermentation capacity. But the new facility, which will be going up on the same space, it's a clean room that we're getting manufactured internationally. This will be capable of 500 liters of fermentation capacity. And so this is going to really assist us where right now we're gaining traction with customer discovery and acquisition and lead generation and nailing down a few more clients, where we're still capable at 30 liters to match their demands, and timing it with all of this customer discovery and traction to the 500 liter capacity, so that it won't be panic stations when a client does say we want X amount. We're doing our very best to be prepared. A bit of mise en place is really coming into play these days, trying to learn from our mistakes as best as possible.
And tell me, what sort of challenges has the business faced? There's been a lot of successes, a lot of pivots, but have you make your own products, so supply chain doesn't seem to be an issue from your side. Where do the challenges lie?
Yeah, no, I mean, there are numerous. Supply chain, probably not on the raw materials front, but there are supply chain challenges on the incredibly bespoke equipment we use. The biotechnology industry in South Africa is on its way, but it's not nearly as established as it is in America and in Western Europe and even East Asia. And so some of the challenges we face are access to this equipment, and then access to maintenance of this equipment, spare parts. So we see this frequently. And beyond that, really being able to maintain some of the skilled staff that we have, not because of any culture changes, but because up to this day, we have still been a startup. We are very privileged that this fundraiser is definitely going to unlock a bit more of an incentive scheme for our staff. But before this time, it was hard to offer what some of the big names are offering in terms of wages. And everyone has to look after themselves at the end of the day. As much as you'd like to be here, sometimes it's not applicable. And so we did have a bit of a hiccup earlier this year where two members of the same division moved on to more corporate jobs. And we were a bit stuck thinking, how ever are we going to replace this? Only to then realize again, we have access to such a wildly impressive pool of talented scientists in South Africa. And if you put the opportunity out there, you're going to have 100 plus bites for each role. I think for this role specifically, 536 LinkedIn applications, and now we've got another perfect person fitting the job, if not excelling more than we ever imagined. And so there's been some risk aversion there, but these are things we're considering all the time. And then I suppose another huge hurdle is regulatory compliance. So before we were very research and development focused, and now we have these commercial products. Everyone wants your food safety certificates. Where's your medical device certification? Where's the City of Cape Town's acceptability? So it's these new things that we're dealing with, but we have such a good team behind us that I think we're managing them quite effectively.
It's such a great success story, and I love the way you guys work together to find solutions, because these are real challenges that so many startups in Africa face, and many land up falling because they can't get past, particularly the staffing. You lose
Yeah.
good staff, you lose skilled staff. It can have a massive impact on startup businesses. Let's talk a bit about the international expansion. Last time when we spoke, the team was talking about going into food production processes, with cleaning of equipment, replacing chemicals with enzymes and that sort of thing. Is that still part of the process? Is that still part of the business, or has it been a complete pivot away from that?
So I think something to note there is that we've kept the core platform technology
Okay.
of the recombinant proteins, which is that precision fermentation, the enzymes, the growth hormones. It's all produced in the same system. Incredibly modular. You do not need another team or another piece of equipment every time you sort of attack a different market. And so, we've gone from the South African sugar industry to the global sugar industry to cellular agriculture, lab grown meat, to cosmetics, and it's all using the exact same platform. And so whilst one door might close in the sugar industry, another immediately opens in cosmetic ingredients.
Right.
And then the connections we made in the alcoholic beverages industry, although it didn't work right then and there, that allowed us to get into the baking and starch and that kind of industry. And so the journey itself has created the opportunities, and the tech has remained the same. And so I suppose our sort of momentum in never really giving up, and every time a door closes, another opens, or at least we're going to go find which one does, has been the mentality and has allowed us to get some of these opportunities. I literally said this statement a couple of minutes ago, but I'm a strong believer in that luck is really just preparation meeting opportunity. The harder we work, the luckier we get.
100%. And just let's talk about the future. You've had a wild journey so far in a very short space of time, with lots of pivots, lots of learning, lots of adaptation. You're now building this facility where your production volume is going to be increased significantly. Future expansion, future plans, bold,
Yeah.
glorious goals that lie ahead. Talk to us a bit about that.
Yeah, so I didn't touch too much on the internationalization plans, but with our new partner in Fireball Capital, we think they're going to bring a lot of exciting US market access, or
Mm.
at least assist in that regard. And with a handful of commercial products, we have a far more focused idea of how to approach that internationalization. A couple of years ago, I would have said, well, let's just set up an office and do exactly what we're doing here. Now it's going to be far more targeted. Who's the partner? What's the exact market? And it has to all be for a reason. So that's definitely earmarked for next year. That goes hand in hand with our regulatory compliance plans. And so we have our food safety audit coming up. We'll have a medical device audit next year. We're getting all of our regulations done so that no questions are asked when an international opportunity comes. Then in terms of the bigger picture, so yeah, we have this new facility coming that's going to be capable of at least 500 liters, but the goal is pasted on the wall. It's local drug development.
Yes.
We have this vision, we have a passion. We are in disbelief that with such an incredible country, such an incredibly smart group of people that we have here, and we proved that during the COVID crisis with all of our analyses, all of the assistance we gave to the World Health Organization, and yet we were still left behind to receive the drug itself. And we're tired of that. We should not be importing 95+% of all of the drugs that we use. We are capable, and we're going to try our best to attack that aspect. We're going to start with diabetic foot ulcer wound treatment, and I do think that is what hooked our new investor the most, this vision. And we have a clear roadmap for that, and we will build from then on. It won't be the first product, it won't be the last that we make, and it won't necessarily be limited to the biosimilar market. There could be complete novel drug development in the future. And that's without a doubt the goal, to be a leading biomanufacturer of pharmaceutical products in Africa.
Well, I think that's a wonderful goal. I've had a personal experience, by the way, on that whole limb loss situation, both within my family and a close friend of mine who has lost both of his legs from those sores that just don't
Yeah,
heal. And it is a big issue with diabetes. And of course, in South Africa and Africa, diabetes is a big issue. So
yeah,
that is
yeah.
an actual marvelous goal that you have set for yourselves. And I really would love to see that happening. Pharmaceutical costs in this country are ridiculous, and it would be amazing to see that kind of facility expanding and expanding into other forms of treatment as well. Last thoughts, Ethan. Why is biotech not bigger in Africa and in South Africa? What is restricting its growth?
To be frank, I think it's we've had too much else to worry about. Biotech is considered a quaternary sector of the economy, and Africa has been driven by the primary, secondary, and then eventually the tertiary sector of product development. And so we haven't been able to give it its time in the limelight when we've got so much else to worry about. It's tough to convince someone our government needs to inject capital into research and development, but we're not feeding the population. And so my argument to that is well, we need the R&D to tackle issues like food security, like health, access to some of these basic rights, but we've just not been able to inject the capital required for that. I think things are changing. I can see it clearly in some of the smaller government subsidized institutions we have. The CSIR, there's UVU Africa, there's the South African Medical Research Council. The programs that we're spitting out are forever increasing. Some of the talent that is coming out of these programs is amazing. Just recently taken on 2 interns from a South African Medical Research Council program, and we've hired them full time. We've agreed to at least 4 more next year. We are helping to build this industry, and we can see the country is catching up. Africa as a whole is also catching up, albeit a bit slower, but we are seeing huge interest in Nigeria and Kenya. There's a big program called the Work Sharing Initiative with the Egyptian government now for us to fast track drug development and access to pharmaceuticals in Africa, whereby if something could perhaps get compliant in South Africa, it immediately goes to Egypt and everywhere in between. And so we don't have this separatist sort of outlook, and we're actually all going to work together on this goal. So I see it growing. The short answer is I think we had other things to worry about. My answer is we can do both, and they'll scratch each other's backs. And it is time to give the research and development economy a chance.
Well, I think that's fabulously exciting. I love it when I hear these stories. My whole perspective on smaller business and startups and that sort of thing is about this is where the solutions lie for Africa. I truly
Yeah,
believe
yeah,
the solutions for Africa for many of its ills don't lie within big corporations, don't lie within government. It lies right slap bang where you are operating. It's creating solutions for Africa by Africans who care about where we're going to in the future. And I think it's a fabulous
100%.
story. And I can only wish you and the team at Immobazyme a fabulous journey ahead. It's really thrilling that you've found some extra people and extra funding, and that your facilities are going to actually be able to expand their growth going into the future. So, Ethan, thank you so much for joining us. I hope too that we will continue to track your story of success, and it's really been great chatting to you. Thank you.
No, thank you, Greg. Thanks for having me, and always great to chat and keep you all updated on what's going on here. So I appreciate your time. Thank you.